welcome to Flooring Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Italeri's 1/9 scale Norton Manx 500cc. Now, a little bit of story behind this one. This is actually the old Protar kits. Now, the Protar kits were sort of legendary back in the day. They're a few years old now, and to be honest, they were going for silly money, you know, horrendous amounts of money on eBay over the last sort of 10 years or so, purely because they just weren't around. Now, this particular kit, again, is one of the most sought after ones out there, but it looks like Italeri are going to be reboxing pretty much the entire range of the sort of Protar kit, so it's quite exciting times. There is some differences between them. A lot of the Protar kits used to have metal parts in there and other goodies like that. These don't. These have all been switched over now to just standard injection molded plastic, but what it does mean though is we get these fantastic kits back out there. So as we can see, the legendary, very much so, single-seater 1951 world champion bike with G Duke. Okay, so this is the Manx. Okay, we've got a few little bits and pieces around on there. We can see some of the advertisements from it in 1957 and 1952. There's the rider as well, Jeff Duke, on the actual bike itself. Again, I haven't seen one of these kits in so long. It seems like this is a brand new kit, and it's hard to believe it's actually an old one, but it actually is. So anyway, kit number for this one is number 4602. Okay. And we've got a little bit there on the decal sheet and a little bit more down there. And it says molds made with proud by Italeri in 1964. So who knew? I must admit, did they make them? Is that what they're actually saying? Anyway, a sealed kit, as I said, it seems a bit like historical going through this box. Just going to check that again. It does actually say molds made with proud by Italeri in 1964. Actually says that there. Interesting. Okay, so in the box we get... Ooh, okay, now I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so as you say, we'll have a look at those in a moment. Let's start with, we've got the instruction sheet, as you can see. Obviously historical things about the bike itself. Going around the Isle of Man TT, we've got Italeri's standard giant pull-out sheet with it, okay? So you can see we've got parts call-outs right the way through, as you might expect, and then dropping straight in, we've got the wheels, okay, and then we're working on the actual engine system as well. We've got the cylinder head system going down in there, some of the more detailed parts, I think that's the carb, the fuel system's going in there, all the parts being added down onto there like that, separates up here obviously, and then we've obviously got the chain being fitted on to the gearbox. We've got the frame assembly going in there, obviously the engine being mounted down in there as well, okay, fuel tanks, things like that, sorry, seat being fitted on there, and then over on the other side, we can see we've got the rear assembly of everything going in there, the rear wheels, okay, and then obviously we've got all the other parts being fitted down, the exhaust systems, shock absorbers, usual thing like that. Front forks being fitted down there, again, hydraulics being fitted in, springs as well, so it makes you wonder if this is actually going to have a working system in it. So we've got a little cross section down in here. So we're showing there the steering, front forks, everything being fitted, control grips, things like that, usual bits and pieces you might expect. Okay, fuel tank. Showing the decals being fitted down onto their fuel tank and fuel system being fitted, front wheel, front brakes, okay, and then obviously we've got the little fairing on the front, we've got a stand, okay, and various numbers and guises being fitted on there just like that. Looks quite straightforward, doesn't it? Okay, so down in here we have a little bit crude the way this is packaged actually. We have got a couple of tyres, and I'll tell you what, for a change, we'll start in the tyres. We'll do the smaller bits first. So we do have front or rear tyres, as you can see. You have got a centre seam running right down in here, but no you don't. That's actually not a centre seam. It's sort of a centre seam, but it's grooved. I'm not sure if the actual real one will have it, but that is actually recessed, that line, so it could be pretty much as the kit is. The rear one as well, so we do have tread. That's actually really nice. They have managed to get rid of the centre seam in that. So all you're going to have is a little bit from these two hanging off of this, and then you'll be absolutely fine on K. But those tyres nicely done. We've actually got Avon actually engraved or raised details racing on the tyres as well, so it's quite nice. Very nice as well. So sometimes they have those removed, but those are on, so it's actually Avon tyres. Okay, we've got a little bag, okay, and in the bag we've got some hosing, various different diameters. We've got a couple of tiny little screws, and we've got the springs for the suspension on this one, so obviously we've got a little bit of plumbing in there, things like that. That's actually a really nice touch as well. Decals, obviously there isn't many. Good, solid, clean colour. Standard sort of Italeri decals, as you can see. But again, nice, clean, crisp ones on that one. We've got a little dial down here for the speedo. Okay, so into the parts. All separate bagged, nice touch. So we're expecting these to be a little bit flashy, and to be honest, we're not going to disappoint there. The burring is very heavy, but you know, this kit is, we're going to have to call it legendary because it is that old. I think that's really when you get to this age of kits, you're not expecting it to be brilliant, because a lot of this may have been hand tooled and things like that. Some nice touches which I can't work out if it's supposed to be there or not, but the actual metal finish on this, the way it seems to be catching the light, even with the actual sink marks in the plastic, they're working really well, because it actually gives it that nice little three-dimensional metal look and things like that in there. So that's very good indeed. Again, it's quite flashy. It's got lots of burring, this thick area down in there, and I don't think obviously this metal finish helps that too much, but it is all there. We do have obviously the openings down in here, the exhaust system. Again, the plastic itself is it feels quite brittle, but it should be okay, so that's not too bad at all on all of those. That's pretty nice. Okay, obviously all chromed parts as well. Let's have a look at the wheels whilst they're here. Okay, so seeing the tyres, so now we've actually got the wheels. Again, considering its age, and I think that's what you have to take into account here, the detail is actually pretty good. So we've got a nice raised recess, the spoking, and again, the spoking system, you're always going to have this thing, you can see it particularly nasty on that one, is the burring where the two spokes come in together. And things like that, so that's always going to be a little bit of a handful, and obviously you're probably going to want to clean these up or go down and replace, or whichever way, with the spoking system. It's going to take some time, but this is one of those ones where time spent at this level will pay dividends later on with the completed model. So spending a couple maybe nights working on this, getting that right on the bike, you'll be absolutely fine. But again, right the way down to the, you've actually got the air valve down in there as well, moulded in. That's quite a nice touch. And we just keep these a little bit safe because we don't want them knocking up against each other. Okay. So, so we've got multicoloured sprues. So you've got the metal, then you've got the other said colours right the way through. So we've got a little clear part. We'll look at that in a moment. So frame, we've got a little bit of texture down on the seat, which is quite nice. Again, there's a little bit of burring on this to clean up, but that'll be fine. Some of the smaller parts, no problems at all. We've got, again, when you're using this kit and you're looking at it, it looks old. That's the thing. This isn't a modern Tamiya kit, but actually I have to say it's something of the charm to this. It feels like an old classic kit. Holding the sprues, the sound from the sprues. I know I'm getting very romantic with all of this now, but actually it's a pleasure to review and look at a kit that's been around so long. So looking at the other ones, again, we've got some of this. Again, it's all a little bit sharp, we've got a little bit of flash on the end here, but actually looking at all these parts, really easy cleanup on all of them. You know, some of the way that they've done this one, and you know, just the way that the tooling is with it. Again, it's a little bit, some of these, obviously the round parts, I know this is just a stand, you've got injection mold marks into them and ejector pins and things like that, but again, they all seem to be quite easily clean up areas. You know, right the way down to inside of these, the way that that actually isn't probably a million miles away from the real thing anyway. Obviously, you've got ejector pins, wouldn't be there, but just the tooling in the moulding, it's quite, you know, rough and ready. You know, the way that is, as it would be. So actually, that's quite nice as well. Okay, last up in the bag, we've got the fuel tank. Again, perfectly acceptable. Take no notice of all this is just injection moulding marks. And okay, the sprue gate is a little bit clunky, but again, we are talking of its age. The way the switch gates are offset and various things like that, again, it just shows its age and that. But when you do look at it, it's not too bad at all. That's actually not too bad, not too shabby. All this will go together very, very nicely. So we got down on here some of the engine parts, and again you've got Norton moulded into these. You can see it, the name, which really is nice for its licensing and things like that. And again, the veining system around these, the engines and the cooling systems, a little bit clunky and crude, but really actually very nice indeed. I'm not a fan of this coloured plastics, obviously you're going to repaint it yourself. But the veining system, you can probably see down here on the cooling vanes for the engine, actually very nicely done indeed. And even the chain work, nice, the cogs are sharp, very nice indeed. And the ejector pins are nicely poked out of the way as well. They're not standing too proud, they're hidden, they're going to be fine. Okay, so again, actually really very nice kit. It's actually one of those kits which is a pleasure to review. Okay, and the clear parts, which is going to be the interesting bit, to see just how clear these are. And as you can see, a tiny little blemish just down in there. But again, when you're taking into account the tooling age of this, but look at the lights, you can probably see they actually are doing exactly what it says. You know, they are going to be magnifying and doing that thing. So once they're in, it will give a very, very nice effect indeed. So there we go, a little bit of a walk back in time, shall we say. And again, sometimes a lot of people obviously talk about AAA companies bringing out brand new tooled stuff, but it's really nice sometimes when you get some of those kits come back around that have been out of production for so long, and obviously the prices were far too much for normal modelers perhaps to want to pay for to build a kit. They became a collector's kit, things like that. So it's really nice to see some of this Protar stuff coming along. They have got more bikes coming out in the series, and they've certainly got the cars coming out as well. I've seen a couple of the Ferraris, beautiful stuff. And again, a lot of the metal parts are now been replaced by injection molding systems, so those parts will be quite newly tooled compared with some of the old parts. So you're going to have that nice sort of historical mix of old and new. But if you are a bike guy, and let's face it, I know there's a lot of you out there, you've been waiting for these kits to come back around. Luckily for us now, Italeri have stepped up, done a re-release, and they've done a run of them, which makes them absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of these at the model shows built up very, very soon. So really, I have to say, it's a must kit. It's a beautiful kit, very, very nice. Historical kit, not many parts, it'll be a joy to put together, and you're going to end up with not only a little piece of history as well, but a beautiful bike to boot. So there we go, that is Italeri's 1/9 scale Norton Manx 500cc.